of the Next Great Cities Coalition, which is comprised of over 130 organizations. Let me welcome you to tonight's events, where we're going to be launching Next Great City 2, an agenda for City Council. First, I'll give you a little bit of background on Next Great City as an idea. In 2005, a few dozen organizations came together with a common goal: to make Philadelphia the next great city. We were facing an upcoming mayoral election and knew the outcome of that race would have tremendous impact on the city, our residents, and our neighborhoods. We grew a coalition to include faith, labor, health, community, social service organizations, and many others. And then those groups worked together to create an agenda that was common sense and cost-effective, certainly something that fast-forwarding to today is even more important. We released this agenda in January of 2007, and a month later held the first mayoral forum in which all Democratic mayoral candidates attended. So that year, we helped shape the conversation for the rest of the campaign season. And we hope to do that again tonight for the City Council race. Considerable progress has been made over the past 4 years, and we must thank Mayor Nutter and his administration for fulfilling the commitment to the Next Great City agenda. Greenworks Philadelphia, a program I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, is making significant strides, and of course we applaud the efforts to make Philadelphia the greenest city in the country. However, we also know there's still a lot of progress to be made. Until now, City Council has not been fully engaged by either Next Great City or Greenworks. Obviously, City Council plays a key role in forming policy and shaping the future of our city. Therefore, we also need their leadership to make our goal a reality. With 5 exiting members, vacating their seats, this year's election will be uniquely transformative, as all of you know. Now more than ever, it's imperative that we work with City Council to implement this agenda and make Philadelphia the next great city. This agenda is framed around 5 realistic action steps that are tailored specifically to City Council. That's why we're doing the launch tonight, and that's what makes this really unique. The original Next Great City was a 10-point plan that was really geared towards a mayoral candidate and the next mayor, which turned out to be Mayor Nutter, of course. Now we've pared it down to 5, and they're specific things that City Council can really take on. Moreover, these are really important because Philadelphia voters themselves view each of these 5 action steps as a top priority. And this is based on a survey which was conducted in the fall by the Terry Madonna Research Group. Unfortunately, Dr. Madonna had to stay in Harrisburg tonight because he's releasing a big poll about the state budget. He was going to join us, but for any of the press that would like to hear him comment on the poll or its results, he will be available for comment. I will give you a highlight of some of the results, though, because they're pretty interesting. First off, very importantly for tonight, 90% of the Philadelphians who were polled are active voters. Among those polled, even taking into account the city's current fiscal situation, 88% of them think the city should do more to protect its air, water, land, and parks. 78% also believe environmental improvements will stimulate economic growth. 81% think reducing pollution, improving energy efficiency, and increasing park spaces would improve quality of life in their neighborhood. In relation to problems which we aim to address through this program, 30% of residents surveyed had a sewer overflow on their street in the last year. 20% had an abandoned property in their neighborhood become a source of crime. 17% avoided a bike trip because they didn't know of a safe route nearby. On the positive side, residents themselves have taken a lot of steps towards contributing to make Philadelphia a greener city. 90% recycle regularly. That's a number that's way up from just a few years ago. 84% consciously reduce energy use, for a lot of reasons. I'm sure we're all aware now that the winter's winding down. 81% use less water, and 69% buy local food. That's something we're especially excited about. Finally, and importantly for our candidates in the room, 78% reported they are more likely to vote for a city council candidate who makes environmental improvement a top priority. With that information in mind, I'd now like to introduce our speakers who will discuss the 5 different recommendations being put forth by our initiative. First up will be Jennifer Rodriguez. Jennifer is Deputy Vice President of APM, a Latino-based health and human services organization. They're committed to helping Philadelphia area families achieve their potential through a variety of programs and services. Nilda's going to talk about the Next Great City's recommendation to sell or transfer publicly owned vacant properties.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here. I am talking today on behalf of Nilda Ruiz, our President and CEO, who couldn't be with us. APM entered the community and economic development field about 20 years ago after providing a couple of decades of service to families in the health and human service area. We understood that the physical environment really had a direct impact on the health and well-being of residents and of the people that we used to serve. And we came up with this brilliant, or what, not brilliant, but what is a novel idea that has been now accepted by research, and it is that building safe and healthy communities really does impact the success of individuals in the health and the general well-being. So in the area in North Philadelphia where APM is really active, vacant land is a chronic and pervasive problem, and one that we believe has a direct impact on the health of the community and in turn on the health of and success of its residents. So vacant land is a chronic and pervasive problem, and a recent survey by the firm Interface Studio found that about 25% of the land in the target area where APM works is actually vacant land or vacant buildings. So that means like about 1 in every 4 parcels of land is vacant. So there's virtually not one block of land where a family does not have the problem of vacant land facing them. A walk through our community will not be dotted with newly painted homes, landscape yards, and pocket parks. Instead, block after block, you will walk through broken sidewalks overgrown with weeds. Street after street, you will see gaps between houses because of demolished buildings. You will walk by 1,500 vacant lots, some of them clean and stabilized, but the vast majority are overgrown and trash-ridden. It is in this environment of scattered lots and abandoned sites that we expect families to thrive. And it's not a very good picture. So, but for organizations like APM, abandoned buildings and vacant land are really assets. This is where we find the opportunities for communities to reemerge. So in partnership with organizations and city agencies and council members, APM has successfully, in one instance, assembled over 250 parcels of land to create a homeownership zone. So we have created over 136 affordable housing units in what used to be 250 vacant lots. The challenges to assemble the land were great. For example, multiple public sector landowners with distinct land disposition policies, the cost and complexities of eminent domain added to the cost of development. There were numerous encumbered titles, parcels with liens that exceeded their value, and so on. These challenges add to project cost, create delays, and increase the overall risks of the project. The results of this effort have been very transformative. So now, after developing the 250 parcels of land, we have a diverse, vibrant community re-emerging. And it has become a community of choice. In this small area, property values have increased 270% since 2003. New investment is visible everywhere, from newly renovated row houses to landscape yards, sidewalks, tended vacant lots. So looking back, APM was successful because of the great, strong commitments from our city partners and elected officials. But we would have clearly benefited from a streamlined disposition process and other reforms like the ones that are being supported today by the Next Great City Agenda. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jennifer. Perfect example of a lot of progress that's been made and a lot of things that can be improved upon to take it forward. Next up will be Kate Clark. She's the chair of Gen Philly and a planner at Philadelphia Corporation for Aging. She's developed the policy portion of Age-Friendly Philadelphia. This is aimed at integrating older adults into the plans and programs of organizations citywide. Kate's going to talk about the Next Great City's recommendation to make streets safe for walking and biking.
Hello, my name is Kate Clark, and I'm a planner at Philadelphia Corporation for Aging, which is the area agency on aging for our city. And we are part of the Next Great City Coalition that is recommending that City Council require all street improvement projects to be planned to meet complete street goals. And a complete street is a road that's designed to be safe for drivers, bicyclists, transit users, pedestrians, and these are people of all ages and abilities. So in addition to the obvious benefits of this type of policy, such as preventing conflicts between pedestrians, bikers, and cars, there are significant health benefits for people of all ages, and especially older adults. As you may know, Philadelphia has the highest proportion of older adults out of the 10 largest cities in the US, and many of these seniors spend the majority of their time in their neighborhoods. So walkability is extremely important for their quality of life and their physical and mental health. Walkable neighborhoods increase physical activity, decrease isolation, can help seniors feel more a part of their community, and increase access to food and information. Complete Streets are integral to an EPA award-winning agenda that PCA has spearheaded called Age-Friendly Philadelphia. The agenda's goal is to work with a variety of partners, such as Next Great City, to target new policies and programs to help our environment become more supportive of seniors and to help them age in their communities for as long as possible, meaning not to go to a facility unnecessarily. So PCA is really proud to be here today with Next Great City and with all of you to support an active Complete Streets policy for Philadelphia's future. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Kate. Next up, we'll have John Wybar. He's with Revolution Recovery and is an expert on recovery and recycling infrastructure. His company provides an outlet for contractors to recycle their waste, which is then used to make ceiling tiles, cardboard, and even art. John's going to talk about the Next Great City's recommendation on reusing and recycling food and construction waste.
Thanks very much for having me out. And John Wybar with Revolution Recovery is a resident of Philadelphia, very excited to get some of these agenda items going. My business partner and I started Revolution Recovery in 2004 with the mission of keeping building materials out of landfills. We were just horrified, and it didn't sit right with the traditional industry standard of landfilling all these materials. So we set out and finally convinced one of the more open-minded general contractors to give us a shot and started separating these loads of debris and finding out there was a lot of good material in them that could be reused. And slowly but surely we convinced another general contractor. Eventually we got one employee and a little more material, and then finally we got a front-end loader, and we kept that moving along. And we are big advocates to see construction, demolition, recycling come big time to this city. Number one, the landfill is just not a sustainable practice. It's a hazard, and it's not popular, and it's not going to last. We have to change. Number two, and possibly most importantly in this day and age, is the creation of jobs. We now employ 35 people for our small fry, 150 tons a day in our industry. Traditional trash transfer stations can handle 1,000 tons a day with 5 people. So for that amount of material, for our process, we could create over 200 jobs. Most importantly, the preservation of the raw materials. The main hazard to the environment, the main strain on the environment for building materials is the mining and extraction of these materials. The resources to recycle them and deliver them back to the manufacturing process are just a fraction of what it takes to go after virgin material. By keeping them in the loop, we can really help the environment. Additionally, we are big advocates on composting. Composting is long overdue in this city. I have a juicer at home. I juice oranges and everything, and far too much food waste. I need some options for this material. Some soils take over 300,000 years to be prime and right for what we're using now, and it is critical that we capture this food waste, this carbon. We don't break up the carbon cycle, but get it back and keep it in farming. With our growing population, we've got to bring this to the city. Not to mention fryer diesel as well. This is a valuable commodity. It's a hazard in the waste industry. It's a problem for restaurants, and it's being sent all manner of places. We need to capture this and get it back into, all new products coming out for cars and other alternate fuel options. And we don't feel it's the place of the city to make this happen. It's the place of industry to make this happen, but the city needs to set up the guidelines and the parameters to accelerate it. So we think, the sustainability movement is not going to be this miracle fuel cell, or it's not going to be the fuel cell anytime soon, and we can't sit back and wait for some genius scientist. We need a full court press. Everything the speakers before me are talking about and coming after me. We need recycling, energy conservation. We need to be good to our people, and it's full court press. Every little bit we can do all over the board collectively, that's how we're going to turn it around and make this happen. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, John. Couldn't agree more about your ideas about comprehensive solutions for these problems. There is no silver bullet, and it's unlikely one's coming down the pipes anytime soon. Next up will be Liz Robinson, the Executive Director of Energy Coordinating Agency. So ECA provides a full range of energy services to residential and small commercial customers in the Philly area. Liz is going to talk about Next Great City's recommendation to disclose energy costs to property buyers prior to purchasing.
Good evening, everyone. So here we are in March of 2011, reading the daily headlines and worrying about yet another energy disaster. This one maybe as large a nuclear disaster as Chernobyl. Last year at this time, I think we were worried about a different energy disaster in our own waters in the Gulf of Mexico with the seemingly endless BP oil spill. So I think it's really clear, increasingly, certainly clear to everyone in this room, but increasingly clear to everyone that our traditional strategy of generation, supply, more generation, more supply, more generation, more supply is really no longer a workable solution. And it's really time for us to take seriously the cleanest, the cheapest, the safest, and the quickest energy resource available, and that's energy conservation and efficiency. This resource for Philly and for Pennsylvania can supply fully 33% of all our energy needs. And it will create, if we are to deploy it cost effectively, we will create 27,000 net new jobs and save $5 billion a year. For Philadelphia, energy waste is an incredible resource, and it's probably the biggest engine of economic development that we're sitting on. We're just sitting on this resource. So I commend Penn Future and the entire Next Great City team for coming up with this recommendation. Raise your hand, pretend this weekend your job is to go buy another car or a car. I know many of you don't own cars, but pretend that you're gonna go buy a car, okay? So how many of you would ask that seller of the car, what's the miles per gallon? How many miles per gallon does this car do? Raise your hand if you would ask that question. Okay, keep your hand up if you would buy a car without asking that question. All right? And yet, we all buy our houses without that information, right? We demand that information when we're buying a car. A house is a bigger purchase. For most of us, it's the biggest purchase we can ever make. Why? Why do we permit the seller of the house or the seller of a commercial building not to disclose that information? Why would we do that? So Penn Future is raising this up as an obvious consumer awareness, consumer protection issue, as well as an incredible opportunity to accelerate market transformation in energy efficiency very broadly. This is a really simple but really huge lever, and it's time. It's really time. So congratulations.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks so much, Liz. I couldn't have said it better myself. Final speaker for the evening, D.L. Wormley, with the project director for PUFA, Philadelphia Urban Food and Fitness Alliance. This is a group that centers on developing a grassroots collaborative devoted to improving access to good food and opportunities for physical activity. These goals, according to their organization, can be achieved through education and advocacy by community residents and, of course, youth. DL's going to talk about Next Great City's recommendation to improve access to fresh, local food.
Good evening. How many of you can walk to a farmer's market, a really good grocery store, or a place that has great food? Thank you. The youth we work with, the future voters, if I ask that question to our Puffa youth, I would think none of them would be able to raise their hands. Our youth supervisor today wrote an article about her life, and she speaks about 13 years ago when in her community in West Philly, her mother and others tried to advocate for having a supermarket in their neighborhood. And even with the great work that the Fresh Financing Program is doing and the extraordinary work of Jeff Brown and ShopRite, there's still no neighborhood supermarket 13 years later. Our youth, a few years ago, talked about the fact that even though the Italian market is in South Philly, they're 15 blocks away. They don't get to take advantage of that wonderful asset. And the other day, in talking to some of our youth, when I was visiting some of their high schools, and I said, "What do you do? What do you eat for breakfast?" They laughed, but they were honest, and they said, "A bag of chips and a hug," which is a sweet water drink. And I said, "Why?" "Because there's nothing else healthier in our neighborhood." This recommendation is essential for our youth, our future, and our communities. And we at Puffa and Health Promotion Council are delighted to be a part of this important coalition. And if we don't make a change now, shame on us.
Thanks to all our speakers. This has really been great. I appreciate it. This is pretty much it for tonight. Of course, I need to thank all the members of Next Great City, and there are far too many to list. But we're going to be giving out information packets that I encourage you all to take, and there's a full list in the back. And of course, anyone who is part of an organization that would like to join Next Great City, please contact me, or of course, visit pennfuture.org. That's pretty much it for the evening. I am going to ask any city council candidates who are here tonight to come up as we're winding things up and sign our pledge board that we've created as a symbol of stepping forward and supporting these types of initiatives. Thank you very much. Good night.